Hey, everybody, welcome back to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. We are in the month of December, the end of 2024. And this month we've dedicated to the theme of Best of 2024. And it's sponsored by Leica Geosystems, a hexagon company. And today we have with us Michael Harvey from the company. He is an expert in all things geospatial and reality capture. And it's so awesome, Michael, to have you on the show today.
I'm glad to be here. Excited.
Awesome. Well, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I actually have a degree in civil engineering, and I was a land surveyor in the city of Boston for 11 years. So that was kind of
Wow.
fun there. I was also one of the early adopters of laser scanning technology back in the turn of 1999 to the 2000s. And then in 2004, I got a very fateful call from one of my colleagues asking me to join Leica Geosystems at that time as part of their sales group. And then Boston guy had to move from Boston to Tennessee and lose a Yankee way of talking very quickly um, to be part of the sales team. And then 2007, they asked him to be part of a product marketing group. Which was pretty exciting. So I took that opportunity, and that has grown all the way into what it is today. I've been with them for 20 years, and now being the senior product manager for all of reality capture. That means that all of the technical groups, so the support and training groups, all report into me. And also, I do a lot of work with talking to customers and really conveying what they tell me of how to create new products or to drive new innovation for their needs.
Well, I love that 20 plus years ago, you were already using laser scanners in
Yeah.
your surveying work. And,
Hmm.
Michael, I'm sure you've been tracking some of the interesting cases out there, surveying and mapping, and where do drone pilots fit into that scheme? Because to
Yep.
be a surveyor, right, it's a state by state license process, but
Correct.
pretty intensive.
It
I
is.
mean, I just remember in North Carolina, I think it was, where the one case is emanating from, it's like a 9-year apprenticeship or something, to be able to do this work. So now you jumped on board to Leica Geosystems, and really at a time before drones were anybody's really thinking much about drones, honestly. And
Yeah.
that's evolved
It has.
significantly over time. So tell us first about Leica Geosystems, and then we'll get a little bit more, obviously, deeper into all the different products
Mhm.
that you guys offer in this space.
Sure. So, I mean, Leica Geosystems has they have their roots back in the land surveying field from many years ago. So it was actually founded in 1819. It was called the Kern and Company.
No, what?
And then
1819.
Yeah, so we've been around for a while, and then over the years it has gone from Heinrich Wild to Leica, what it is today, and then we have always based a lot of our values around the Swiss technology of Swiss excellence, Swiss precision with very high quality devices, anywhere from creating the glass that is used in the instruments. So for anybody that is a camera buff, that I'm sure you've all heard of the Leica camera, there are actually three companies out there that share the Leica name. So there's the Leica camera, the Leica Geosystems, and there's Leica Microsystems, all owned by different entities, but we all share many of the aspects and components of all the different things. So it's always been based around, like I said, precision and high accuracy on the geosystem side.
Wow. Okay. So we have a very broad audience, Michael, that
Mhm.
watches the show, and not everybody might fully appreciate number one, surveying. I made
Mhm.
that assumption when I made my initial comments that people would know that, but maybe they don't. And then secondly, geosystems.
Mhm.
Maybe that seems blinding, like patently obvious to you, but maybe not for everybody that might be watching the show. So let's start first with surveying and kind of this primary kind of field
Mhm.
that a lot of these systems are applied to, and then explain what geosystems are.
Sure. So surveying is, I mean, everything from measuring real property to actual buildings. So it could be anything from, like I said, from back in the day before reality capture, you have what's called a total station. So a total station, somebody would sit behind it and they would turn several knobs and then they would turn angles both in the vertical and the horizontal plane. And then they would measure some sort of a distance to get some sort of 3D point out wherever that they were measuring.
Okay.
And those types of things can either be could be from measuring a building to creating topographical maps to doing any of those types of measurement things. And that's primarily surveying. So whether you are putting out staking a building, or like I said, creating topographical maps, or measuring a road, or even boundary, because that is the root of land surveying, is measuring land boundaries, and basically telling where people's real property is.
Okay, cool, cool. And then how geosystems.
Yep. So Geosystems has evolved over the years. Like I said, we started off in the surveying realm, but it has certainly grown over the years. So Geosystems creates everything that measures real things. So it could be anything as simple as some of our handheld disto devices. So you've probably seen those on Amazon.com. So they're just these very small electronic tape measures, if you will, and then all the way to measurement devices that actually get into fixed wing airplanes, so that you can fly them at an altitude and then measure topography, whether it be through photogrammetry or even LiDAR. We even have some that even penetrate into water for bathymetric type of surveys as well. So it's a huge range of everything from handheld to high-end, in a plane, to, like I said, with reality capture. Then you have tripod mounted things, or things that even get into the autonomy world.
Well, speaking of autonomy, of course, this is the dawn of autonomy, and you just mentioned a couple things: handheld devices, kind of ground vehicles, if you will, and of course, you guys have drones as well.
Mhm.
So the evolution then, from maybe these handheld systems to robots. Let's talk a little
Mhm.
bit about that, and why. In other words, why isn't just the handheld good enough? Sometimes it might be, but sometimes it isn't, right? So let's talk
Correct.
about the challenges that you all are addressing in terms of the environment you're in with the different systems.
Well, autonomy has grown over the years, right? So as you mentioned that we're getting into more and more autonomy, from handheld to more of like robotic mounted. So that is the BLK ARC, and ARC stands for Autonomy Reality Capture. So what we're really trying to do is really address into different markets, where you don't want to send a person, where you start to get into these safety challenges. It's much cheaper to send a robot into an area, and God forbid if something catastrophic would happen, it's much cheaper to replace a robot than it is a person.
Right.
Um, so and then there's that, and then there's also challenges with other aspects of industry, especially like construction, and even in plant industry, where a lot of measurement and things for change detection, if you will, start to happen over in the overnight hours where nobody's there. So therefore, now if you mount it onto a robot, then they can go out and autonomously go measure something while everybody's sleeping, and then kind of come back later on and have all that data. You can start to look into those types of different things as well. And then with anything public safety, you can obviously, with that, we all pay attention to what's going on in the world as far as some of the conflicts between countries. Well, a lot of reconnaissance needs to happen. So you certainly don't want to send a dude out there to have start taking fire. So you send a robot out there, and that's much it's a much nicer way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the image we had showed earlier was a robot dog in a
Hmm.
tunnel.
Yep.
And if we could pop that just back up for one more second, I want to highlight something about this picture. So there's a sensor type thing on the front. Tell us what we're looking at.
Yes. So again, that is the BLK ARC. That is the sensor that is integrated directly into the Boston Dynamics Spot Dog. This is one way that we can measure those types of things. So it is scanning 360 degrees as it walks along. It also is feeding the LiDAR information into the robotic sensor, so that it will control its movement and its trajectory while it walks as well. So there's a lot of different types of things that are happening with the integration between those two devices. Now the scanner is pulling power from the robotic carrier, so that it's actually our only scanning device that does not have a battery, because it actually pulls power from whatever is attached to. But yeah, it's a great way to map these things. And in our software, if you have a determined path, or a model, you can actually create a path and upload that into the controller, and off it goes. It does its own thing.
Wow, so truly autonomous and double duty.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
not only is it helping to kind of give, I guess, navigation information,
Mhm.
if you will, to the
Yep.
robot, it's
Mhm.
at the same time scanning its environment for like
Yes.
3D reality capture.
Yep, and it's as it walks along, it's basically scanning and taking imagery so that the image is colorized as it comes off the instrument. And the other thing you can also do is you can tell it to stop, and it will continue to scan. So it's almost like a tripod mounted scan. So it can walk along, do a scan, stop, do another scan, and keep going as it's collecting more and more data. So if there are areas that you need higher detail or more information, you can actually either walk slower, stop, and then come back, or just move, side by side, so you get lots of overlap in those areas of higher interest.
So, Michael, I assume there's an entire software suite behind
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
And this is a Leica Geosystems software that comes with the BLK ARC.
Yes.
Okay, and you alluded to training as well, that
Mhm.
that's something your company does. So explain the model, like if I'm a customer and I
Mhm.
want to integrate, for example, the BLK ARC into a drone dog, the
Mhm.
Boston Dynamics dog, as
Mhm.
an example. How does that even work? I just call you, I call someone from your team, I
Mhm.
say, this is my market use case, this is what I need.
Mhm.
You help kind of put that package together, and then do you
Mhm.
physically go out and do training, or how exactly does that work?
The answer is yes. So with the whole sales process, that typically it is not a you call us and then we just send you some stuff. We tend to always have a much more involved and collaborative type of process. So we're actually creating partnerships in with the customers. So we don't want to come in there and say, "Thank you, here's the stuff. We'll take your money and we disappear."
Yeah, here's your
So
robot, we're good,
exactly.
your
So
system.
that never works well. So once we do all those types of things, that once you have purchased a system from us, that there is certainly a lot of training options that can be had. So our team, especially the team that I manage, we have developed these things called smart plans. And a smart plan is unlike typical training where we show up for a couple days, show you how to do things, and then we go away. Smart Plan is really a subscription type journey. So that we will start heavy. So it can include some on-site training. We'll tell you how to use it. We'll show you how to use it. We'll go do some scanning. We'll have you, walk the dog and do all the things. And then we'll actually show you how to process that data in the software. But after we leave, that also allows the user to get into our monthly online virtual classrooms that we move every month, because learning is not just once and you're done. It is a process and a journey. So as you get deeper and deeper into your um, expertise levels of creating or using the instrument or creating deliverables, that more and more questions may pop up during everything, so those classes are always available to you, to always go back into and have those conversations. Now, whether it be a customized 101 type of class, we could do those, or you can just join one of our sessions that we have predefined. So there's always a way to to sharpen your skills. Then on top of that, our group also has what we call an LGSU event. And we can do this once a year. And we just had it this past October in Tucson, where this year was 126 customers showed up, where we had over just under 70 unique classes that ran for a full week. So it is a full deep dive into that. And then we also have other classes where you can come to us. So we have a trainer will come to one of our facilities, and we can go through some of the basic training things on there too. So yeah, there's certainly training is a very important part of the overall workflow for sure.
Well, and it almost sounds like an ongoing education, not just like training, as you said. And so, Michael, where are that you said that people can come to us at our facilities? Where would those be located? You mentioned Tennessee, where you at least started. I don't know if you're there right now.
Yeah, so I mean, I have the benefit of working out of my own home, which is great. But yeah, we have offices both on the East Coast and the West Coast. So typically, if it's West Coast, it would either be in Tucson. Like I said, there's an office we have there. We can go to one of our centers of excellence in Costa Mesa, California. On the East Coast, we'll probably go to our corporate office, which is in Alpharetta, in Georgia. So we can go there and conduct classes there. But yeah, there's lots of options.
Awesome. And I love the word that you used, Michael, relationship,
Mhm.
because I know for me that's important when I'm, especially with something complex like technology and something that
Mhm.
has software, because
Yep.
not only, it's never one and done, there may be an update. And
Yes.
then to understand how to like operate around that or to
Right.
incorporate those changes into your model, I think is so important. So that's awesome that you have all of that.
Right.
So for the BLK ARC, which is
Mhm.
this basically device that integrates with robots,
Mhm.
what are the primary use cases? You mentioned a few. You mentioned like security. You
Mhm.
kind of threw out public safety.
Mhm.
The picture you showed looked like a tunnel, so I'm thinking it's some kind of inspection of critical
Mhm.
infrastructure.
Yep.
What else? Like, what are the different markets and types of customers that use the BLK ARC in particular?
So it's a great question. So and it's actually all over the map. So we have, as the use cases that we have already talked about, but there's also building construction as well. And
Hmm.
that's a huge one of actually being of combining or checking what has been built versus the model. So, and it could be just as simple as does the wall, is it there or is that pipe there? And then it could also then morph into, is it in the right place?
Hmm.
So now you start to check QA QC design versus what is in reality. So it's what we call what we call as builting.
Hmm.
So you just start to combine those two things there. So that's a big case, big one there as well. And then we have all sorts of unique cases that we can actually integrate the ARC into a backpack too. So not only that you can actually just have it just hover kind of above your head and just kind of walk along as well. So it's instead of carrying, let's say, the BOK to go, that you can actually put the ARC in a backpack and walk that way. So there's all sorts of different ways that we can use these technologies as well. And then we have some really kind of cool ones. These are one-offs, but they are possible. We do have a company that has mounted the ARC to a concrete printing machine where they actually print houses. So it's from with concrete. So it's actually can be used that, and that again is being monitoring what is being taken out of the nozzle of the instrument into and comparing it against a model to make sure that everything is going as planned.
Wow. Okay. So I want to make sure that everybody out there is clear. The BLK ARC is basically that sensor package, if
Yep.
you will, that
Yep.
also does a lot more than that, including
Yep.
assist with navigation for robots. But
Yep.
you just mentioned the BLK to go, and I know we have an
Mhm.
image of that.
Yep.
So this is a handheld, and
Correct.
this is the one you were alluding to that you
Mhm.
can put in your backpack.
So the Arc is the one you can put in your backpack, but
Okay.
this is the to go. So again, this is similar technology, and you can see the dome of the to go looks awfully familiar to the dome of the Arc.
Yeah, that's why
Um,
I'm sorry I was confused. That's why I really wanted to walk through this so
yeah.
nobody else is
So
confused.
yeah, so some of the laser components are actually quite similar to each
Okay.
other, and the operation in range and scan speeds are pretty similar between the two devices. The nice thing with the to go is it's quite light. It's it's under 2 pounds, and you just push that little button that's right above that gentleman's finger there, and you just let it go and you walk, and then you start to scan wherever it is. And just like the Arc, you can stop, you can pause, you can gather more information as you're walking along. But it's, all of the autonomy fleet is an extension of what's happening with the static fleet, right? Because not everybody can actually put down a tripod, so they need to be able to walk some places. And then the only difference between static scanning and, of course, what we have with autonomy is you add a trajectory. So essentially, you start to add in motion and time. So therefore, you're projecting the point cloud as you're moving around instead of a static scan and then merging those together back in the software. Now, one nice thing is all of the sensors all have the same software workflow in the back end. So regardless of what sensor you have, that the software workflow is almost identical. So therefore, now each sensor can be complementary of each other.
So like a different node in the system, and that was going to be my next question. But
Mhm.
honestly, I want to get to the flying version of this thing,
Yep.
the BLK to fly.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and talk about that because this is the one that
Mhm.
I've seen at so many different shows, whether it's
Mhm.
Geo Week or commercial
Yep.
UAV or energy drone. We haven't even talked about energy as a market that you guys are working in, but we were chatting before the show, everybody. I've seen Michael's colleague, Frank Colazzo, at almost every show. I
Yep.
must have like 10 plus pictures of him holding this drone, which is very eye catching. And it
Mhm.
looks like a flying BLK to go,
Yep.
or BLK ARC, if you will.
Yeah.
So tell us about this and what the inspiration for the BLK to fly
Mhm.
is. What was the inspiration for it?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head there. It is in I think the dawn of this is typically with UAVs. One would always think of something that would have a payload and carry some sort of a sensor, right? And then you
Right.
would fly at an altitude, and then you would fly it back and forth to do the thing. Whereas the fly is going to be very different. So one of the challenges that we've always had, or the industry has always had, is so let's say you're scanning a rather tall building or a church that has a very unique facade or something like that, and you're going to be scanning it with a static scanner from the ground. Well, guess what? You're going to cast shadows wherever that scanner cannot see from the ground, and therefore you can't get portions of the roof, you can't get portions of the facade, you can't get all those types of things. So therefore, now if you were to fly to be okay to fly up there and capture all those things, now you can combine the two data sets and have a complete data set of the entire thing without any shadowing. Now, you can also scan the entire building just with the fly as well, if that's what you needed to do. So it really gives the users a lot of flexibility of how they want to capture some of these devices or some of their scenes with the different device. So again, it's not meant to be flown at an altitude. It is going to be flown up close to something and scan, but it has all sorts of interesting technology. So it does have radar and obstacle avoidance. So as it's flying along, if something's in the way, it'll fly around it because it is sensing those types of things. And it does, just like the Arc, it also has some intelligent mission planning. So if you're doing in the middle of a scan, let's say the battery gets a little bit weak, it'll come back home. You can change the battery, and then as soon as you get a new battery, and it goes zoom, and just takes off and does a thing again. So yeah, there's a lot of autonomy in smarts and intelligence behind all that.
Well, I guess that's a great lead into this next question because we do have a lot of folks in the drone industry, drone pilots that watch the show. How's that looking from the drone operator perspective, if you will, since there's so much autonomy? In other words, do I have a ground
Yep.
control station?
Mhm.
Am I flying this thing? Am I programming this thing? If I'm just programming it, can I interject myself to make it do something manually if needed? How
Mhm.
does this all work?
So it will do all the above. So you can actually program it to go ahead and do a completely autonomous flight, and then it will go off and do its own thing. You can also control it from a controller, and then for what the user will see is the one of the live camera feeds that's on the device back onto the controller as well. Um, the one nice thing about the fly is that you can also fly this in a GPS denied area. So you can fly it indoors. So if you have one of those areas that just impossible, so if you have a large sporting stadium and you need to go up and scan some of those large girders of steel beams way up, or even in a mining area underground, that you can fly this thing in a GPS denied, and that way you would connect to it and fly it in a manual mode, and then you would fly it around so you can capture your data in that fashion. Mhm.
Okay, very cool. And getting back to kind of this multi-modal system that you've now created, this BLK
Mhm.
suite of products.
Yep.
You know, so I can have, for example, the Boston Dynamics Spot Dog with the
Mhm.
BLK arc on there.
Mhm.
And then I could also be in the building. And I think here we go.
Mhm.
Here's a great example. I could be in the building with the dog and that
Mhm.
scanner, either walking with your handheld,
Yep.
right? BLK to
Yep.
go,
Yep.
or have another arc in my backpack, or have the BLK to fly.
Mhm.
I could be flying that, and that
Mhm.
all of that data
Mhm.
is what? It's fusing together, it's integrating?
So all of that data then would, once you've downloaded it from the different scanners, it would go into a software called Register 360. And then in that software right there, you can now combine all of them into a singular data set. And then from there, you can actually put those into various different things of what kind of deliverable you want. The other thing is you can also, every one of those devices will create what's called a B2G file. So that's the raw data file. You can also, from the sensors, you can upload this directly into our cloud software. So Reality Cloud Studio. And then Reality Cloud Studio will also merge some of these data sets together as well. So you can now, in that case, so if you had a project that was clear across the country somewhere else, you can upload into Reality Cloud Studio, and then somebody completely on the other side of the country, once it's there, can download that data, take a look at it, and start working on it. So it's a nice way to send data in back and forth, and it becomes a very collaborative type of way of working as well.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So we talked about the different market use
Mhm.
cases. Is there any real world examples you can provide, even if you don't want to mention a customer's name,
Mhm.
but where the whole, the BLK, I always call it black, right? Is BLK an acronym, by the way? Because ARC is.
BLK is an acronym, so I can't remember what it is, but it
Oh
is
my
an
gosh!
acronym.
All right, because like my brain, I always see BLK and I think, oh, that's just a abbreviation for black, because all of the sensor, like the robot, or the drone, the to go, the to fly, they're all black. So I'm like,
Yep.
oh, BLK black, but okay, we'll figure that out. But in any event, so real world use case like involving this suite, or like a cool success story that people can you can bring it to life for people.
Mhm. So we have customers clear across all segments. And the one that I'm going to pick on is actually in a segment that you mentioned previously, in energy. So rather large energy company that deals with oil and gas. And some of these devices, what they like to do with them is, many of these facilities are so large that many times that their infrastructure facility and maintenance groups have no idea what they have, or that their as-built drawings or information is so outdated that they need constant updating.
Right.
So the nice thing about the autonomy fleet, whether it be to fly, to go, or even the arc, that they can collect very quickly a very large scale 3D point cloud, in essentially for asset management. So now they have a great idea of what they have and where they have it. And then when it comes time to either needed to replace something, then they can send another device that is either tripod mount or something that's much more higher accuracy. Something like either the BLK 360 or the RTC 360, which is part of the TLS group. That then you can go and get some design grade information, and then all of which can be handshaked with each other and be combined on top of each other. So again, everything is meant to be complementary to the other. Even if you got into some of our mobile mapping stuff that is also autonomous, right? So you start to mount things onto a vehicle and start driving around and mapping. So those types of things as well. So everything is meant to be handshake, but it's one of the great ones is a lot of these things are asset management, our QA/QC, in the case in point of construction. Like I said, a lot of people are on a construction site. And today, especially in the States, that construction tends to be in a process called design build, which means that the design is not fully done and they've already started construction.
Yikes.
So, so that
You're a
therefore
civil
this like,
engineer. How does that make you feel?
yeah, interesting, right? But it's also helpful in many ways that um, if you were to design something from start to finish, there's going to be something that happens that you're like, oh, well, I didn't think of that, type of thing. So the design build process allows you to be very fluid in your actions. So therefore, just having very good information of QA/QC was okay. Well, this is built, this is built, this is built. Oh, well, we had to move that because there was a problem. We had to move it. So therefore, right up front, now you can start making changes to the design right away before critical systems start to get involved, whether it be a fire, whether it be your structural components. You can start making changes right away without having massive rework done, and it will actually start to decrease a lot of the rework that needs to be done. So that's a very large cost savings there for a lot of those customers there.
Yeah, I never really would have thought about that.
Mhm,
That makes a lot of sense now that you've
mhm,
explained it, honestly. All
mhm.
right, so environmental construction. Tell me about this public safety space. What is your vision there? I mean, I could see the dog. I could see kind of situational awareness,
Mhm.
maybe
Mhm.
especially in a remote, weird situation. But explain to me kind of what your vision is for public safety.
So public safety it stretches just way beyond what you would think, right? Because most people think public safety, okay, well, that's my law enforcement. They're going to go out and scan maybe a crash scene or even, something that is along homicide or anything like that. Goes much deeper than that. So, public safety also gets into a lot of like route planning and pre and post planning for dignitaries that are going to be driving along the street.
Like VIP
So,
protection.
so a
Okay.
lot of protections like that. So, being able to easily map some of these corridors or some of those areas like that, just to pre-plan and make sure that it's what's called threat assessment, so that you can go in there and see what's going on. And then, of course, with the last election or pre-election that we've seen, some of our candidates actually taking fire from
Mm.
snipers. So a lot of these things are mapped so that a lot of those positions can be pre-planned. Say, okay, well, we're going to have eyes on that rooftop. We're going to have eyes on that rooftop, just to make sure that there's no clear path for somebody that has ill plans for anybody, right? So that
Yeah,
it goes past that. Mhm,
you raise as you're talking, makes it come to mind that some school districts now, sadly, with all the
mhm.
school shootings,
Yep.
are also mapping
Yeah.
their campuses. And I'm not talking colleges,
Mhm.
just colleges or
Yeah, yeah.
universities. I'm talking
Yeah,
like
elementary
elementary
schools.
schools.
Elementary schools, yeah. So
Um,
they are being mapped, and so to make quick, even just quick and dirty floor plans, so that they can map the most efficient evacuation pass as possible.
yeah.
So that's yeah, they're trying to get into that realm there as quickly as possible for sure.
And it just makes sense, a natural extension of all this. I think you mentioned it much earlier in the show. Disaster response, in this case,
Yep.
possibly disaster planning.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, disaster planning is, like I said, it's a lot of it is pre and post, and it can be anywhere from, like I said, mapping dignitary type of their routing. I've even done a lot of work with military for pre and post blast analysis. So obviously that in wars past, that a big thing was some of like suicide attempts of harming people, so that you would actually go in and scan these areas as pre and then post. And then with the post, you can actually start doing a lot of investigation of what type of explosive it was,
Hmm.
even and start to learn some of those types of things with some of these devices and understanding trajectory. One of the things we did is we actually blew up a car, and we kind of figured out what was the trajectory of parts of the vehicle that got blown away, and even driven into the ground, so then you can start to almost fine tune where the detonation came from,
Wow.
and those types of things. So it goes a lot deeper than just what meets the eye.
Yeah, no doubt. What about
Mhm.
natural disasters, Michael? I know
Mhm.
a lot of folks in, for example, floodplains. Insurance companies
Yeah.
are big, big into mapping areas now,
Mhm.
especially ones that historically have been in climate, kind of focused areas, whether it's Florida
Yep.
or, places along the coast, etc.
Yeah, I happen to live in one of those areas. So I live in Fort Myers, Florida, and yeah, we got a lot of hurricanes, man. Matter of fact, we got two of them this year, and then 2 years ago, we're still feeling the effects of Hurricane Irma, where a lot of the beach areas are still completely decimated, and they haven't recovered yet. So yeah, you're right. That having these autonomous devices, to whether it be will it be the dog, or even the fly, that now you can very safely hover these devices or walk them over into areas that you certainly wouldn't want to send a person, and get some very detailed information of what is happening in those areas for sure.
It's amazing. So this is the best of 2024,
Mhm.
Michael, right? The month that you guys selected the sponsor, which, by the way, again, we're very thankful for. As you look back over the past year, what's like one of the biggest things that you look back, whether it's your company, whether it's the, let's call it the drone industry, geospatial, industry, as one of the biggest things that you're like, yes, 2024.
Um, that's a great question. So the industry as reality capture as a whole has evolved very rapidly. Everything from way back when I got started to these giant things that weighed a gazillion pounds, that took cables that were probably that big around to power these things, to what it is today. With anything autonomy, even with the rest of the fleet, I think that the hardware is getting to a point where it is so rapid and is becoming so easy to use that I think where a lot of the focus is, and I know it is our focus as well, is in the software, right? Because this is where truly where all the magic happens.
That's the
Is
data.
exactly, here it is, and now we need to make things out of it that are become tangible deliverables. I think one of the things that excites me the most is a lot of the work that is being done in AI. So,
Mm,
a lot of the AI is allowing us to create libraries to classify or segment or very intelligently do a lot of things in the software that typically would be very manual in nature, that would take a very long time. Furthermore, is a lot of the time, or a lot of the things that would happen in the office traditionally are now being pushed into the field. So now decision-making processes can be happening much quicker and much earlier. So one of the other things that we do with some of our this other sensors, especially with construction, is like floor flatness. Well, you got to be able to measure something when the concrete is wet. You have 7 minutes to get that done
oh,
before
wow.
it's too late. So therefore, a lot of this stuff is being pushed into the field, and then even with the autonomy fleet, is now you can start to merge these things together. Make sure you have everything before you leave the site, because I know back in the survey days, one of the most expensive things ever was to redeploy a crew to go back out to a scene, and those are just budget killers. So now that you have everything for you, that everything is captured properly. But like I said, I think AI is definitely where a lot of excitement is happening, and I think that doing a lot of intelligent things around the software is definitely where a lot of focus is being put.
Well, that makes sense. So as I
Mhm.
listen to you, I hear AI, I hear kind of at the edge or in the field, and multi-domain
Mhm.
fusion, which
Yep,
is clearly where everything is going. So as you look
for sure.
ahead to 2025, because
Mhm.
we're on that cusp,
Yeah,
and you're looking into your crystal ball,
yeah.
what's your prediction? What's your projection? And do you have any big announcements for like Geosystems?
Yeah. We're always working on tons of stuff. I'm always going to say that, because I know there is
Yep.
also, I think there's somewhere around 60 plus concurrent technology projects right now. But with that being said, but we always are looking to make sensors better, looking at new components to make things quicker. There's speed is of the essence. So obviously processing and making things better, bring in the more, greater and more efficient things to market is certainly what we want to do. So we're always working on those types of things. And that's, one of my main functions is to take that feedback and get it into the development teams. But I would say for next year, like I said, software is really king right now, and it's just getting into that workflow because a lot of the sensors we already have right now, they're already top of their game. And they are very complementary of each other. So we're very seated, we seated quite well that, there really is no such thing as one instrument to do it all. There's some that come close, but, every use case has a different need for a different sensor, and so on and so forth. So, the key is that you can have 900 different sensors, but, our focus is you can have one software, and one software workflow that's going to be able to handle all of them, and then make life a lot easier. So now it depends. Like it's almost like you wouldn't go to the dentist to get your teeth fixed, and he's going to use a hammer, right? Because it's just the wrong tool. So just you having those different tools available it's the right tool for the right job.
Yeah, God, you gave me a horrible image there of a dentist with a hammer, and wow.
Yeah.
But no, no, this is great. We always say the military, everybody
Mm,
thinks, every problem is a nail and the military is a hammer, right? Like, no,
yeah.
I get you. So how then do people learn more about what you're doing, Michael? And also, how might they reach you as we close out the show? Because we're getting to
Sure.
the end
I
here.
mean, and again, our website is chock full of all the technologies that we have on there. So you can certainly learn about that. Then you can always reach out to any one of our sales staff. I mean, they are all, most of them, if not all of them, are all from the industry. So these people are not just your traditional sales guys. I mean, these people have done it. They've walked the walk, talked the talk. So they are all very knowledgeable of what they do, and they're very skilled in their craft, of coming from the industry. And then you can always, reach out, contact me if they wanted to, and I can get them in touch with some of our technical people. We also have, this is the Smart Plan website. You can always go there, and start to learn about some of our training stuff. So lots and lots of different things to learn from. And then, of course, every other year now that we always have our Hexagon Live conference. So you can always come to those, or look for us for any one of the major conferences that we go to. So whether it be Geo Week or whether it be Autodesk University that just happened. So we're always present in the market. Yeah.
All right. Well, excellent. It's been, to use your word, quite a journey, learning all about your BLK suite of products, and
Hmm.
how you're making life better, honestly, for so many different people in different industries, safer and more efficient and effective. So thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you so
Welcome.
much for taking the time today, and also for sponsoring this month, Best of
Mhm.
2024. It's been a great year, and we wish you the best in 2025. And everybody out there, thank you so much. We are out here.
Thank you.